Hey everybody, this is my compiled video of the different chapters of my Season of Discovery journey, hopefully serving as a chill video to watch on the second monitor or even to bed. I've had a lot of fun playing SoD, making videos, interacting with everybody, and the growth and support I've received has been amazing. But I'll let the video play now. Thank you. I am a mostly retail Andy, and with the new Scarlet Enclave raid coming out, I wanted to try my hand out at it. Now, I have played some Season of Discovery before on this rogue, and partially a warrior a bit before Naxx came out, but I only really did a few endgame dungeons and half a Molten Core. I wanted a fresh start on a new class, with the end goal of conquering the Scarlet Enclave. So join me as I level to 60 on Blurred Summits in World of Warcraft Season of Discovery. I start with fixing up the UI and turning off rested XP so I can create my own adventure. I pick up a couple quests, then loot some wolves for copper so I can start buying my runes from the rune broker, a change which I massively appreciate as a newer player to Season of Discovery. I did play when it released, but only to about level 16 or so. I had more retail priorities back then. Back when I leveled my rogue before Naxx came out, I did it mostly with my brother who was playing a warlock, and I remember some runes being crazy powerful while leveling, like Haunt and Unstable Affliction. Though I can't equip any yet, as the starting gear can't have runes applied to them, so I'll have to quest and find greys to really get going. But with only the first two quests done, I'm already level 4, when normally you'd leave Northshire Valley at level 5, thanks to Discovered's Delight buff, which I personally really enjoy the pace of. I'm currently leveling a warrior on Anniversary Realms, and while it's fun, it can be a slog. While defeating some kobolds, I come across my first grey cloth braces, which is important as now I can equip the Unstable Affliction rune, which does an insane amount of damage, enabling me to pull like a maniac. I finish the kobold quests and make my way to the Defiance Bandits, now at level 6, flying in levels. I pick up the tome needed to summon my imp, and I'm excited to see the name which my imp has. Yeah, I'll just pretend the L is silent. That's a pretty good name. I head to Garrick Padfoot, and as I'm casting a rogue, snipes him. But that's okay. While I await his respawn, I can slaughter a whole gang of these thugs with ease. While doing so, I pick up a belt, enabling the Invocation rune, which makes it so when I apply a dot spell, it instantly does a tick of damage. With that, my questing in Northshire comes to a close as I make my way to Goldshire at a big ol' level 7. I clear out the kobolds in the Fargo Deep Mine, and I get low sometimes, but I remain confident in my abilities. I start killing some boars in the fields as well, as you can get the 4 chunks of boar meat prematurely in order to instantly hand in the Pie for Billy quest later. I did mess up my order of quests a little bit, having to go back to the mines for Goldtooth, but I think, no biggie, I'm overpowered, I'll just zerg through it. And my overconfidence actually leads me to my first death at only level 9. Regardless, Cusco and I take down Goldtooth for Bernice's necklace. Coming back to Goldshire, handing in the quests, we hit level 10, and I spec into Affliction as I believe that's what I want to do while leveling, mass pulling with heavy hitting dots and drain life abilities. I can also begin the level 10 Warlock quest for the Voidwalker pet. While running to Stormwind, I see these massive runes with undead hanging around them. I have no idea what that's about. I assume something to do with the Naxxramas phase, but I shortly after get a quest to kill some, so I thought, why not? Turns out that didn't really lead to anything, just some free XP. I make my way to the east side of Elwyn to finish up a couple quests before Westfall, as well as picking up the Lakeshire flight point to save time later. On this farm here are some normally dangerous enemies like the Collector and Princess, but due to my level and the runes, it's very easy. I finish what I want on the east side and make my way to Westfall, and on the way I want to take down Hogger. It takes me a while to find him, but I do eventually, and he actually almost takes me down. Even with these crazy runes, there is still danger. Heading into Westfall is actually, I think, a highlight zone of classic WoW. Good music, quests, ambience, and the leveling speed is pretty good too. Normally I'm a Horde player, but I've been trying Alliance on Classic recently, and zones like Westfall, Red Ridge, and Duskwood are very good zones, and a welcome change from being stuck in the Barrens for like 12 levels on Horde. Questing in Westfall, overconfidence takes me again as a Gore task takes me down, which isn't the last time this happens. I head to Sentinel Hill and fly back to Stormwind to hand in some quests, including my Voidwalker, which in doing so I ding level 13. Back to Westfall, and oh my god, these Harvest Watchers hurt, man. The very first one I fight kills me. That's crazy. And it happens again on the second Watcher. I have to be much more careful with these Harvest Watchers, they shred me. Killing a young Gore Tusk, I find my first cape, which allows me to equip Soul Siphon, empowering my drain spells. I also find this Explorer Imp, and even when writing this script, I still have no idea what it does. I'll have to Google search, but I wanted to try and see for myself what it does. I finished the rounds in Westfall, killing Watchers, looting animals for food, and culling the numbers of the Defias and Gnolls. After handing in all my quests, I ding level 17, and finally get a replacement for my level 1 starting robe. But I decided to turn in for the night, as it is very late. Tomorrow will be time for Deadmines, and hopefully, Blackfathom Depths. New day, and I immediately think of Deadmines, which I'll cut straight to. There's a lot of running around prior, which isn't very interesting. Now, the best thing I can get from here is the Emberstone Staff from Captain Greenskin. With my group formed, we head into Deadmines, but we actually get to do the Undead Miners quests outside the instance, which I almost never get to do, either because my group doesn't want to, or it's too populated, so that's some nice XP. I decide to try some different runes for this dungeon, using Shadowbolt Volley and Felguard for their AoE capabilities. And yeah, wow. The Shadowbolt Volley rune is great, it does so much damage, and listen to this. Satisfying. Now, onto the bosses and loot. Rakzor drops nothing. Sneed drops some cloth gloves with strength and intellect, which are an upgrade for me. Gilnid unfortunately does not drop the ring I was after with the intellect, just some pants nobody needed. Mr. Smite actually drops the hammer, which is a big upgrade for our Ret Paladin. Cookie drops the mace, which nobody needs. He could have dropped a wand, but no biggie. And as we make our way up to the giant ship, we come to Captain Greenskin, the boss who can drop that staff, which is even better than the one completing the Edwin Van Cleef quest would give. So I cross my fingers, and bam! There it is. Also, I may have purposely crafted this group so nobody else could use staves. Straight onto Edwin, and he drops the Cruel Barb for our rogue, which is a crazy good weapon, so congrats to them. We circle back round to finish the undead quests, and with all that done, we ended Deadmines at level 18 and left at level 21. That is very impressive for Classic. Thank you, Discoverer's Delight. I then don't have much time to play for the rest of the day, so no Blackfathom Depths. But I decide to head to Meadowville Harbour to pick up that flight point. Now, you can run through Lochmadan and Wetlands, but I do the over Ironforge skip. There's plenty of guides on YouTube on how to do it, and even better ways to do in hardcore mode, but I'll leave my way in case you didn't know. From here, I can venture to Theramore, and from there to the Barrens to start my quests for the Incubus and Succubus pets, which require me to go to Ashenvale. I've played Classic a fair bit, but the amount of running always surprises me. But instead of running all the way to Ashenvale, I decide to take the boat from Meadowville Harbour again to Alberdine, so that I can pick up some quests to do on the way down to Ashenvale. I get the flight point in Astronar and try to fly to Alberdine, but it doesn't work, and at this point, I'm very confused. What? How is Astronaut not connected to fucking Alberdine? Turns out, I run all the way back and I never picked up the Alberdine flight point. Yeah. But After my time in the Night Elven areas, I head to Red Ridge to get to level 25 and start forming a group for Blackfathom Depths. It starts slow at first, but a while later a surge of players come applying so we can get started. We're in and I'm keen. I'm going to try a couple different rune builds and see how I like the rotations and damage. Alright, first boss is Baron Aquinas. He has a couple mechanics to drop you in the water, but that's it. Blue Wire is nothing for us, but plenty of bosses to go. Gamir Ra time. He puts out these orbs which hurt you if you touch them and a knockback, so you need to check positioning. Nothing from this boss either, but 2 mal pieces for those that use them. Lady Saraves next, and to be honest, I don't really know what this boss does besides damage. We kind of just killed it. And more male stuff drops. Now what I'm hoping for is the staff from Twilight Lord Kelris, which I'd keep for a really long time. Galahast the Murloc now, and here you need to not touch anything that's purple, whether it's moving or not. I know there's some safe spots with the Murlocs, but I don't know them, so I end up almost carking it. For loot, a nice cloth chest drops, but we have a few who'd want it, so unfortunately I don't win it as I roll a big old 2. Next boss, Lorgus Jet, and he drops these totems that you need to focus down, which we don't do too well besides the lightning totem, which does get exploded. Nothing from him though. But now comes the boss I've been waiting for. Range need to stack to avoid flooding the room with purple, and Ad should be killed by those put to sleep. Once he gets low, he enrages and is no longer interruptible, so it's just a DPS race. We do it with only 1 death, and no staff drop. But 2 cast items which I actually win both of, so I'll take that, not bad. Finally, we engage Akumai. Simple boss really, just avoid the frontals as far as I know. Nothing we need though besides the quest item, which we do not win. Maybe next time. But yeah, that's Blackfathom Depths. Pretty fun really, nice way to get some big items to last you a while leveling. And it got us about 2 levels. From there I call it a night, and I look forward to my next adventure into Gnomeregan. We start back up in Stormwind and get ready for a really weird Stockades run. I've joined this group and I notice that the Paladin Simplified is actually level 60, so it looks like this is a free run that maybe the leader has organised, I don't know. But obviously he doesn't realise that the Paladin is 60, because he kicks the newest member after saying he doesn't know how to heal on Mage. Alright, weird start. I zone in and they've just started, and at this point the leader still hasn't noticed that the other paladin is level 60. He's actually ripping threat from the level 60, which is kinda funny. Do damage. I'm AFK. Carry free. This is weird, but I'll take the easy XP, I guess. We let him gather mobs fully and wait till they're completely gathered to start DPSing. But still, we are actually pulling threat from the level 60. I don't know how that happens really, but it ends up in a wipe. Now, I've only ever been in one other carry run before, and that was years ago in another Stockades. So, I don't know if this is the norm, but it's free, so I don't complain. Also, the level 60 doesn't have res. Alright. Regardless, it's a bit of a messy run, but we get through it, and unfortunately, I'm missing 1 mob for the quest. I try to go in solo, but I end up dying, and I just can't be bothered really. Level 28 now though, and I decide to join a Shadowfang Keep group. While I won't give too much XP at this level, I have a Warlock quest in there, and there's also a special Season of Discovery boss that can drop an epic pair of pants. So I'm here for loot. We begin the very long trek from Manethil Harbour to Arathi and South Shore. The group actually meets up at South Shore so we can summon the party and actually venture together. I'm not a huge fan of the sheer amount of running in Classic, but it definitely has its moments. We begin the dungeon, and if you go up this path here before the butcher boss, you'll actually run into the special boss. Sever here can drop one of these 2 items. This time it drops the epic axe, so congrats to a paladin. I wanted to show this little jump skip I learned from Cataclysm dungeons, which lets you skip a fair chunk of mobs, but my party doesn't follow, so we clear anyway. Up to second last boss, and he drops some massive cloth shoulders, which the priest and I both need, but unfortunately we don't win. But it's all good, because the last boss Aragol drops the robes, and the priest passes on them since they got the shoulders. Very kind, did not have to do that. The druid and I end up sticking together after the run to find another group. I would really like another item or 2 from this place. It just unfortunately gives very little XP at this point. Though unfortunately the boss Sever drops the axe again, which nobody even needs on. But maybe the last 2 bosses can drop some good stuff. Nope. And nope. Oh well. We still got a level and a very good robe. My next adventure is actually into the Duskwood incursion. I find a group with another warlock and a rogue, and together we're able to get through it quite quickly. I know incursions aren't the most exciting thing, but they're quick and give a lot of XP and gold, which is what I'm looking for in order to get to level 60 and do the current raid Scarlet Enclave before it's over. The dailies end up getting me from level 29 to 31. After that, I immediately begin forming another group for a Blackfathom Deeps run, in the hopes to get some really good loot and a little bit of XP. While forming the group, I decide to have some fun and whip out the random roleplay with these people at Menethil Arbor. Greetings, fellow adventurers. The weather is quite wicked this eve. It's not cold, the dry lands. Doth speak the truth. Hopefully our transport arrives soon, lest we catch an illness from the brain. Ah, our boat! I'd say praise the light, but... something to keep the chill away. Needed that. It's like spying on us. Oh fuck. We have shed sail. Now to wait days for the long distance. Ah, the other side of the world. Jump. Do it. I shan't. Who knows what creatures lurk down there. Shit, is that John Warlock? Fuck. Our destination. Good luck, adventurers. With that RP to pass the time, we finally form the raid, with a level 60 to help this time too. I actually decided to try and tank for around half this raid, just to see how it is, and honestly, it's pretty cool. Not sure if it's what I'll do properly at endgame, but it's good fun. Otherwise, on to loot. Baron Aquinas? Nothing. Gamera? Same deal. Saravis? Nada. Gellyhast drops a nice offhand, but we don't win it. Lorgus Jet? Nothing for us. Kelrus drops nothing, but I do find this random pair of shadow damage boots. So that's something. Finish up at Akumai, but unfortunately again, nothing for us. After all that, I finally hand in my Warlock quest to receive the offhand to go with my dagger from my first Blackfathom Deeps run. Following all that, I decided to do at least a little bit of questing at South Shore, killing an extreme amount of Murlocs and Naga. And after doing a bit of that, I go back to Duskwood for more dailies, which I have almost out-leveled at this point. I try to find a group for a while, but am unable. Though thankfully at this point I can actually solo even the elite mobs, so I have that option. Though after the clearing the Ogre part, I do find a couple people, so I reclear that, and we quickly finish up the rest of the incursion, getting us to nearly level 35. Being in Duskwood, I decide the next best place to go is Stranglethorn Vale, eliminating forces of Karazhan and beginning the large amount of hunting for Hemet and Nessingwary. I have to say, I like Stranglethorn Vale as a questing area, but it's so much better as Horde, purely because you have that second flight point at Gromgol. It saves so much time running up and down this huge zone. If I make another character, it'll probably be Horde just for this reason. After some questing in the jungle, I do start the quest line to get my Fell Hunter pet, which I don't complete for a while. Spoiler alert. The first part is to collect a book in Hillsbrad. Pretty easy, just past some Murlocs. The other part needs me to go all the way to Thousand Needles in a cave by Centaur. Not hard, just a very long run. While in Dustwallow Marsh, I attempt to take a shortcut through the zone rather than following the road. It does not work out. But finally, arriving in Thousand Needles, I find the cave, and an undead warlock and I help each other to clear out to the book. While in Thousand Needles, I also pick up this Ferrulous Flight Point and Gadget Zan, two that we'll definitely need later. Coming back from Gadget Zan, I begin questing in the Shimmering Flats. Something I actually usually look forward to while questing in Classic. It's very easy to put something on the other monitor and do a circle around the zone for a large chunk of XP. Back to Stranglethorn Vale for more troll culling and beast slaying to impress Hemet, as well as eliminating Colonel Karazhan at level 39. Our last elite beast to kill before Bangalash is Tethys, and in handing that quest in, I have finally achieved level 40. Which means that as a warlock, we can simply travel to Ratchet and learn the spell, Summon Felsteed. It also means that I can now enter the leveling raid, Gnomeregan. First boss is Grubbus. You deal with 2 waves of adds coming out of the tunnels and then the boss. These green clouds will appear and you're meant to bring the adds into those clouds as well as interrupting the basilisk so the tank isn't stunned. We get him down and good plate gear drops, but nothing for us. Next is Viscous Fallout, which we actually wipe on as we didn't quite have the burst damage to take down the goo before they turn into big adds, which have really nasty casts. But we get it down second try. I help by changing runes for more burst damage. He drops the epic dagger for our soul rogue and some cloth bracers, which we don't win. I've got a lot of casters in the group, unfortunately. Third boss is the Crowd Pummeler, whose main mechanic is to do a huge knockback in front of them. A priest nearly goes flying but is saved by the walls, but the same can't be said about this paladin. Otherwise, this boss goes down, yet with no loot for blurred summons. After the big robot is a leper gnome piloting a big robot, Electrocutioner 6000. He zaps 3 people out far, who need to swap with 3 others to avoid getting one shot. Though we mess this up, with 5 people including myself going down before the fight finishes. But hey, at least 2 pieces of loot we can use drop, which of course we do not receive either of. Second to last are these robotic critters, and it all goes south from here, I'm sorry to say. I'm not 100% on the mechanics, but from what I know, casters hit the sheep except when it has the shield up. One tank drags the dragon around the room away from the others. The chicken drops an egg which needs to be DPS down quickly, and the squirrel needs to be interrupted. But we unfortunately just can't manage it. Our tanks keep dying, and to be honest, I don't really know why. We try again, but still can't do it. Our group loses a couple, but we manage to replace, even with a level 56 paladin. Though he ends up pulling before a priest can respec to healing, and we wipe due to lack of heals. And that was that. Group fell apart right after that, and at this point it was 2 in the morning for me, so I really couldn't press on. But you know what? That's okay. Gnomeregan isn't going anywhere, I can always do it again. Progress has been made, and that's what matters. We still made journeys and had fun, and I look forward to our next adventure. Blurred Summons and his Felsteed, whom I've dubbed the Admiral, will venture onto level 50 and beyond. First things first, I noticed something pretty off about my character. I don't have a helmet. Now, I could just buy one off the auction house, but I decided to make a little journey out of it and collect a specific warlock one from some quests. We head to Darkshire and the Wetlands to collect 2 specific flowers, which our warlock instructor uses to brew a potion to give to a noble after finding out about the warlocks in the basement of this inn. We are the ones to give it to him, and he meets his demise after sticking his nose where it shouldn't be. And for our efforts, we are gifted this hat with pure wizard energy. After that, I return to Ashen Vale for more dailies, and I can't find a group, so I decide to try solo these quests. But shortly after starting, I do find a rogue to quest with. It was during this incursion I realised even more just how tanky Blurred Summons is with the Drain build. We're able to kill all the elites with just the 2 of us, though the Shredder is messy because he's immune to shatter damage, so I don't get the healing from Drain Life. Overall, this gives us massive XP and gold, getting us to level 43. After which, I make a long run through Feralis to pick up the Desolace flight point and collect some items for a small warlock quest, which gets me a pretty nice upgrade to our offhand. The next day, I'm in Menethil Harbour and I just barely missed the boat. You hate to see it. But it means I get to be a spectator to whatever all this is. Moving on. Yeah, I'm back here. The efficiency is just too good. I remember hearing about how poor these were received when they came out, and I can see why. It'd get pretty repetitive doing so many of them. This time I can't find a group, so I end up soloing just what I can, which is actually most of it besides the Shredder and Profession quests. And now we're level 45. I take a break for a while because at this time of day for me, there's not a lot of people online. A while later though, as in midnight for me, I run up another Gnomeregan group in my attempt to clear it this time. I actually end up tanking this run, just so we can feel a bit easier. We even get a 60 mage to help heal us, and this run goes much smoother. But before we get to where we left off, I'll go over the loot from bosses. Grubbus doesn't drop anything for us. Viscous Fallout drops the wrists, like last time, which we do win. Crowd Pummeler drops no gear for us, and as we fell the robot, my gloves actually break, which is not very good because that's where my Metamorphosis rune goes. Thankfully the mage has a grey pair for me to use for now. While we cleared the second boss, our second healer just vanishes, and yeah, they never return unfortunately. But one of our druids offers to half heal to help. But onto the Electrocutionist 6000, nobody dies this time. He drops some really nice gloves, which would be great, especially considering I'm currently wearing greys. But we don't win them. Oh well. There's a quest that rewards some blue gloves after this anyway. And now we're back to the mechanical menagerie, with me tanking this time. I decide to take the dragon and keep him away from the other mobs so he doesn't buff them. But we wipe after our main tank and then I fall. These things really hurt. Our druid, the one doing the most damage, offers to fully heal to avoid this, so we should have it this time. We pull again, but then I die. And I feel like I wasn't getting healed. So I checked my details after the wipe and yeah, I just didn't get a heal besides my own for at least 10 seconds. We're keen to go again, but at this point the 60 mage looks like they've ult F4'd. Not looking good. But our group holds strong, and we end up getting my very kind guild leader, a geared rogue 60 to come help, as well as another guildie to replace for heals. We go back in, still 9-manning it, and it is rough, but Xeno is doing so much damage, and heals feel much better. But due to our comp, we actually mess up the main mechanic of the fight, that they all have to go down at the same time. So a couple of the bosses return to 30% HP, and at this point it's really spicy. Multiple are down, but we're so close, and we finally get it done. This amazing epic dagger also drops for us, but we don't win. It's fine, I'm happy we just got the boss down. We recuperate and prepare for the next boss, who has 4 phases. In the first phase, the tank needs to kite while the flamethrower is going off. Second phase, you need to stay out of the ice. Third phase, you need to interrupt the boss's toxic fume thing he does. And during all of these phases, bombs are pouring out which need to be killed, and the buttons by the dispensers need to be turned off, which can only be done by an individual once every 30 seconds. Now, I'm on bomb killing duty, as with my instant cast range searing pain ability, I am the best here at it. The fourth phase is all of these mechanics combined. By the end, it's very dicey. People running around, on the floor, bombs everywhere. We get him out of the mech and I actually can't find him. I was panicking at this point. He has very little HP, but he still needs to be reduced to 0. I managed to find him and taunt him just before a rogue gets taken out, and with all of our struggles and through sheer willpower, we managed to take down the final boss of Gnomeregan. We do receive some gear for our efforts, a helmet and a chest tier token. Big thank you again to the guildings for helping out on this one, wouldn't have been possible otherwise. Ending up my night around 2 AM once again, I take a short trip to the auction house to buy some new cheap shoulders. I need to fix the outfit. This just isn't it. Yeah, that's much better. The next day, I do some quests in Hinterlands, which in doing so, I ding level 47, and I'm able to do the Hinterlands incursion. Yay, more dailies! But this time with a couple guildies. This one's kinda rough though. The mobs are orange to me and I have to tank. The total elite takes us a few tries. But we get through it all together, and after a short scouting trip to the altar of Zul, I hand in a final quest to ding level 49. Only 1 level away from our next raid, the Sunken Temple. I was gonna call it a night here, but then I decided, screw it. I'm gonna form a group for Zul'Farrak for my final level before bed. Zul'Farrak being one of my favourite dungeons in classic WoW. I like how different it is from other dungeons, and there's loot for everyone from here, but it takes so long to find a healer, I'm starting to regret trying. We find one eventually, but shortly after our paladin, who also had the mallet of Zul'Farrak, DCs. We wait a while, but he ain't coming back. So we shortly after find a rogue with a mallet to replace. Now at nearly 2 in the morning, we can finally start the dungeon. I take this opportunity to mix and match a lot of my runes to get a feel for them. At this point I've decided that at endgame I want to be a destruction warlock, throwing fiery destructive spells such as Chaos Bolt and Rain of Fire. But in this dungeon, my damage feels really bad outside of massive pools. I had also realised that I forgot to train for a while, including a massive upgrade to Rain of Fire at this point. I do decent damage if I incinerate to buff fire damage, Rain of Fire, and then Hellfire, but this is so taxing on both my mana and my health, so I can't really do it. But anyway, onto some loot. The main thing we can get from here are either the gloves or staff from the Witch Doctor. Unfortunately though, we don't win the hands, losing to the priest. We do the chief of these trolls after the stairs event, and he actually drops the less than 1% drop rate sword, so congrats to our melee hunter I guess? On anniversary, my warrior is about to do Zul'Farrak, so it did make me a little upset to see it, because now I don't feel like he's gonna get it. We finish up at Grazrilla, who drops a very nice dagger for our rogue who brought the mallet. But more importantly, we receive the scale, which we can turn into this gnome for the carrot on a stick, a famous trinket from classic WoW which increases your mounted speed by 3%. And outside of SoD, it's a lot of people's first trinket. At the same time, we ding level 50, and that means that tomorrow, well, today, Sunken Temple is on the menu. I start a group up and we have a ton of 60s helping us out around this time. So I'm pretty confident, even with only 2 healers. And yeah, this place goes pretty dang smoothly. First boss is a Talarian. He summons these pillars which you need to stand in front of before he does his big knockback shockwave to avoid excessive raid damage. Due to Sunken Temple being a 20-man raid rather than 10 men, it drops more loot, though this boss has nothing for us. After that is the huge slime boss, Festering Rot Slime. Ranged are meant to kill these random objects along the hall, to put them in the path of the slime to slow it down, while avoiding green effects on the floor. No loot for us though. After that are these trolls, which is sort of a council-esque fight. You fight them progressively, and after finishing one off, they come back as an unkillable ghost that continues using their ability. These go down really easy though, and they drop a lot of healing gear. Shortly after, the next 2 bosses, Dream Scythe and Weaver, spawn. They do acid breaths as well as occasional knockbacks, which are scary due to the green pools, as well as the big hole in the middle. And yep, that is a fair chunk of the raid down the hole. Regardless, we get the bosses down due to our sheer damage output. This Ret Paladin 60 is pumping. They don't drop anything for blurred summons, however. Next are Ogon the Wretched and Gemalan the Prophet. Once you take down one, the other gets empowered. We take down the melee troll first, and I actually die. I do however get B-rezzed by one of the 2 druids, but I should have waited until the fight was nearly over because this guy does some serious raid damage. Even with all my drain spells, I still get taken down again, meaning no XP for us. Once defeated though, this boss drops an insane dagger for casters and oh no. That's the wrong button. That hurt. Silver lining, I got a tier token at least, while I mage won the dagger. Keep note of that. The next boss is another 2 green dragon boss, Hazaz and Morphaz. I'm not 100%, but I think the fight boils down to zerging down Morphaz while you're in the dream state realm and coming up before the cast finishes. We accidentally locked out our healer this fight though, and I think it's going to be a wipe, but we actually finish it with only a few deaths. And oh my god, look at that offhand, that is insane. I hit need and... Right after that boss is Erraticus, whose main mechanic is that you need to put yourself to sleep by walking into a green cloud before he casts Waking Nightmare. This is a one-shot to anyone, so you have to do it properly. I don't do it properly, even though I'm very much in the cloud. Maybe there's an eternal CD between sleeps I don't know about, which does mean, unfortunately, no XP for us. But we do get another tier token to use later. We're now onto the secret last boss, which requires an egg from a lengthy quest chain. I don't really know this fight, I'm gonna be honest, which does mean I get taken down because I guessed mechanics wrong. I just know you're not meant to spread corrupted blood. No XP once again, but wow, this staff dropped.
Oh my god.
Look at that thing. That is insane for casters and especially warlocks with the extra shadow damage. You can see me contemplating here really hard on whether to need on it, and I regret equipping the offhand, but because of that, I decided to greed on it for the other warlocks. But then, the mage, the one that got the dagger from before, rolled on it, and needed it, and won, which everyone immediately criticizes him for. 1, because he got the dagger, but 2, because it is very clearly a warlock item. Look at how much spell damage that thing has for shadow. Sure, it might be an upgrade for him, but it's still pretty uncool in my opinion, but he doesn't give it up. So I'm sorry to my warlock brothers and sisters who rated this run, and to those watching. Regardless, I finish up by turning in my tier tokens for some much needed upgrades, and that leads to the conclusion of this part of Blurred Summon's journey. We got our revenge on Gnomeregan and took out the corruption within the Sunken Temple, getting ever closer to our goal of hitting 60 and defeating the Scarlet Enclave. Initially, I start back up in the Blasted Lands, but for those who haven't done this zone, it is quite possibly the most boring zone in all of Classic WoW. There's the Dark Portal, and that's it. The quests are just mindless kill and collect ones, which take an unbelievable amount of time to do. I tried to spend some time here just watching things on the second monitor, but it's just too much, and I decided to do a dungeon run of Maraudin instead, inviting my friend Voodoo, who's started playing SoD again recently too. We go in with a bit of a weird group, not really having a tank, but it's fine because this Paladin basically solos the dungeon with this Shockaden build. We do almost wipe on these slimes though, that feels mandatory. I've also forgotten just how massive Moralden is. It's a decent dungeon, but the sheer scale of this place is huge. We take down the bosses with ease, with the princess dropping this healing necklace, which is technically an upgrade for me, and I assume it increases the healing I get from things like Siphon and Drain Life, but I decide to pass on it since the Shockadin needs it. After that, we make a run back to the Satyr boss, which we missed, which drops me a nice belt, and then Rot Grip, dropping some pretty good shoulders too. Took a while, but it was worth it. At least for me. With the quest turned in, we also ding level 53. The next day, I decide to do another Sunken Temple run. It has a lot of really good loot and XP potential. We do my namesake and summon people, which takes a while, and then we get on to some bosses. The Talarian doesn't drop anything for us. On the way to the Fester and Rot Slime, about half the raid accidentally pulls the boss early and they wipe, but they get given more world buffs afterwards, so it's not a huge loss. Yet the boss drops naught for us. After taking down the trolls, people don't move from the middle, which means that the boss spawns, and that actually wipes almost the whole raid. We begin to recuperate by rezzing and summoning on this raised platform. We almost get done, but then my imp Cusco body pulls the boss and we wipe from the green. Good grief. We attempt the boss properly afterwards, but I die from pulling aggro, and we wipe to I think a lack of damage. We try again once more after some more summons since quite a few left, and it takes ages due to lack of damage, but we get it down. No loot for our struggles though. Next is the 2 troll boss, which we start at 3:05 in the morning by the way. Most of the raid wipes around 3:09. A few more push on until about 3:20, 11 minutes later. And then the 60 tank keeps going until 3:27, when the boss is basically unkillable due to his shield regeneration. An over 20-minute attempt at this boss fight just to waste time, and the raid disbands. That really sucked. Calling it a night at 3:30 in the morning. After all that though, I head into Blackrock Depths, an endgame dungeon, and a nice change of scenery. Endgame dungeons like BRD are good for us, as bosses level 54 and up drop this currency once a day called a Tarnished Undermined Reel. These can be traded in for endgame items, such as tier up to Blackwing Lair, and some trinkets, rings, and weapons. To end the smooth run, Thorazone also drops the very sought after Hand of Justice trinket, so congrats to our warrior. After that, I begin my Onyxia Attunement quest chain, but get interrupted by an invite to another BRD run. As I mentioned just before, the reels can only be obtained once a day, per boss, but it's still good for us to go in as it can provide significant upgrades to our gear and holds decent XP. After completing that run, I head back to my questing, but I decide to try again later, as these melee dragonkins hurt really bad, doing about half my health if they crit. So a while later, I start taking out these Fire God Ogres, but am once again interrupted by an invite to Blackrock Depths. This time, it's a prison break run with a couple bosses sprinkled in. Freeing Marshal Windsword like this is a part of the Alliance version of the Onyxia Attunement quest chain, so I'll have to do it again at some point, but I'm happy to help. A little bit later, I am back in the mountain yet again for a reels run, meaning we efficiently run the dungeon to maximize the amount of tarnished reels we get. Ending this run, we get yet another Hand of Justice. They must have increased the drop rates for these kind of rare items in Season of Discovery, because I know in regular Classic these can take ages to farm. We also get a very suave new monocle. At this point, I'm in for another change of scenery as I head to the Plaguelands, taking on endless hordes of undead, particularly around Anderhall, which lore-wise is a pretty cool place. It was sort of a last stand bastion against the undead previously, but now it's a less than stellar questing location. Also, these temporal parasites have a chance of respawning after killing one, and I got about 8 respawns I want to say. Good thing I'm not on hardcore. Overall, the Eastern Plaguelands are a decent questing spot though, and it gets me to level 57. As we head into the Western Plaguelands to begin the mass culling instructed by Tyrion, I get invited to a partial Strathhome run, which is all good by me. Loot and XP is loot and XP. If you didn't know, from Strathhome, this valuable item has a low chance of dropping called the Righteous Orb. These are used in all sorts of endgame crafting recipes, so are a high value item and sell for quite a bit on the auction house. Apparently one dropped before I joined the group. And this run drops us a whole 5 orbs, 1 for each member. That's insane. After the run, Blurred summons us back to the mob grinding quest for a little while, dinging level 58 while some very dramatic music is playing in the background. 158, I decide to head to Felwood and Winterspring for some key quests, like a Warlock one which, if I do Sunken Temple again, could give me an upgrade to my robe, and a quest to attune to Demonfall Canyon, a new dungeon added in Season of Discovery. On the way, I get asked to summon people for a Blackfathom Depths run, so I make my way there and summon people. They do offer gold, but I decide to decline out of kindness. It's what makes the world go round, you know? I then make my way through Felwood and into Winterspring, and I wanted to say just how much I like snowy zones in World of Warcraft. Dunmoreau, Winterspring, like all of Northrend, it just hits a really cozy vibe. Makes me wish I lived in a place with snow, but in a desert country like this, it's pretty rare and only in select regions. After some Alkin and Yeti quests, I head back to the Plaguelands, finishing up the Tyrian quest, which gets me level 59, just one away from max level. Shortly after, Blurred Summons gets into a Scholomance dungeon run, a place which I've never been to in Classic before. We begin, and this tank is pulling maybe a little weirdly, randomly going AFK at times, and after like 3 pulls, he pulls way too big, we wipe, and he leaves, and then the group disbands. Bit of a weird first ever Scholomance, but we can go again. After some searching, we get into a really solid group, ready to full clear. Now this dungeon drops a lot of good gear, particularly caster gear, including multiple pieces of my dungeon set, which could be pretty big upgrades. From this one run, we get the Warlock belt, shoulders, and hands. And we finished it all up by doing a massive pull, and I ding level 60. I proceed back to Ironforge, buying the dungeon set Warlock wrists to finish up the Force set, and training all of my remaining skills, which does drain me a lot of gold, but I've still got some left over, so that's good. And yeah, that's Blurred Summons, finally at level 60. Super excited to get into the raids and more dungeon runs. I'm really feeling my power grow, and I can't wait to experience new things like taking down the Scarlet Enclave. We begin by trying out a new dungeon for Season of Discovery, the Demonfall Canyon, which I have never been in. In the last episode, we actually completed the 1 quest attunement needed for the dungeon, though I realised later I had already done it on my rogue and I could have just bought it for 7 gold. The first boss here is Grimroot, a big old corrupted tree guy. He spawns an ad, drops poison puddles, and has a big cast you need to interrupt. We actually wipe, I think due to people standing in poison, but we go again and it's much smoother, dropping a trinket which isn't great, but is an upgrade for me, which nobody else needs, so I guess it's mine. The next boss, this big old Felguard guy, basically has 2 mechanics. Cleaves you need to dodge, and a big Nova you need to run from, dropping a pair of gloves that would be decent for me if I was Affliction, with its increase to shadow spells, but being a Destruction Warlock, most of my damage is fire, so I decide to greed and still win them, so I guess I have them just in case. Heading back the way we came, we run into this Goblin Shredder. I don't even know why he's here, but he goes down really easy, dropping a tanking necklace. Shortly after, we fight this Pit Lord who does a big frontal on the tank, a rain of fire, and waves of dark energy you need to dodge. Asgaloth here drops an intellect ring which would be a massive upgrade for us, still using the one from incursions, but it's clearly intended towards healers. So I ask if the healer minds if I need, but they just say they really need it, so I decide to pass it. I'm sure we'll get another ring soon. We descend into the Barrows to find Piranus, a corrupted night elf druid, who puts you into this foggy dream state, where you have to get rid of these flowers to come back. He drops a trinket that looks really good for PvP, especially against warlocks, but I'm not super interested in it. Venturing even deeper, we find a Deothoris, the Seeker, who casts hard-hitting shadow bolts, puts the group to sleep periodically, and puts fire in the ground. They drop an agility sword and the Eye of Shadow, which is used by priests to craft an epic staff. Initially quite excited by this, we quickly learn it's actually got a decently high drop chance, and is not as rare as usual classic. Otherwise, we come back out and begin our battle with Hellscream's Phantom, who does abilities akin to his Warcraft 3 hero, like a Blade Storm and living images of himself. He drops his axe, which is pretty cool. Makes me want to play a warrior. It's what I usually play in World of Warcraft. After our dungeon adventure, we head into a group for Molten Core, a raid that can give us massive upgrades to gear as well as a large amount of reels. After doing a lot of summoning, such as the life of a warlock, we begin our first raid and Season of Discovery. Now, normally I would do a very brief detailing of what some bosses do, but Molten Core these days goes by so fast with the amount of Nax geared people doing them for reals. The first boss, Gehenna's, goes down in 43 seconds. So I will just go over loot boss by boss. this one dropping nothing for us. Lucifron actually drops 3 potential items and we win a pair of gloves, because nobody else needed the second pair. Magmadar drops an amazing caster trinket, giving a huge amount of spell power on use, but we don't win it unfortunately. Both Gar and Baron Geddon drop naught for us. Shazra drops some tier braces, which we do actually win. On the way to the next boss, we actually fall to trash, which sucks because we lose world buffs, but to be honest, we weren't anywhere near competing for damage anyway. Sulfuran Harbinger had nothing for us. On pulling Golomag, somebody ninja pulls some mobs behind, which kills quite a few people, including almost me. The boss goes down though and drops an offhand, which I'm not actually sure if it's better than my current one, but also a tier chest piece, which is certainly an upgrade over my level 41. We win neither. We then take down Major Domo, and by the way guys, wait for the raid leader to loot chests first, otherwise it takes forever. The boss does drop some boots, which the raid lead almost accidentally gives to us, but corrects himself. I did lose the roll. As we prepare ourselves for the arrival of Ragnaros, a boss which I have never done in Classic, my internet drops out. And I missed the entire boss fight. Man, that feels bad. But at least we're back before Ragnaros' loot is rolled out, which for us could be a pair of shoulders, which we don't win. Unfortunate. Now, I also do want to point out, most of these rolls that I lost in the various items were to this one other warlock. Just us two rolling, who was wearing almost a full set of Scarlet Enclave crafted gear, which is way better than what I'm currently wearing, and I believe way better than Molten Core gear, so I'm not even sure why he's rolling on all this. It feels kind of bad, but you know what? We got something from this raid. The next raid for Blurred Summons is the Nightmare Dragons, which serve as an amazing way to gear up fresh level 60s, having loot from Blackwing Lair and even Encourage. Emeris, the first dragon, I'm basically asleep the whole fight for. Else I have all my cooldowns massively increased, so that wasn't super fun. But the boss does drop some tier leggings from Blackwing Lair for us, which we win by tying with this priest. I'm not sure why it was given to me, and I'd re-roll with him, but before we can, the next boss is pulled. Lethon, who sends out Shadowbolt volleys in the same sleep clouds. On defeating this dragon, another pair of pants drop for the priest, so it looks like it worked out. We also win this cloak, which is a crazy upgrade over our level 15 one, as well as this trinket, which is an on-use that massively increases our pet's damage for a short duration. The next boss, Terreur, does a mass fear and summons a big ad to take down. We don't get anything from this one though. The final of the 4 dragons is Ysondra, who summons lots of little ads to cleave down. From this one we get the Nightmare Engulfed Object, which I believe you can turn into someone for a nature resistant win, which is useful for AQ, but that's about it. As well as losing a roll to upgrade our very outdated robe once again. But overall we got some really good loot, so I'm happy. Shortly after, I get a group going for Upper Blackrock Spire. Just before we do it though, I take down this Blackrock Quartermaster, which begins us the Blackwing Lair attunement process, which the only next step is to complete Upper Blackrock Spire, so nice and easy. It takes us a little bit to form, but my guild leader, the same one from Gnomeregan, comes down to open the door and provides us DPS as well. Massive thank you once again. The first boss goes down in literally like 10 seconds, but has nothing for us. We also have the rare spawn Jed Runewatcher, which can drop a really good caster trinket, but unfortunately he doesn't. We're then on to the Stadium event, which is really boring and takes forever. After about 10 minutes of basically doing nothing, Rend finally comes down, but gives us no loot. The next boss is the Beast. A massive beast, dropping again nothing for us, but the dagger at least for any skinners that need it. The final boss, General Dracasath, goes down easy and drops this necklace, which while definitely aimed towards healers, is an upgrade for me, and nobody else needs it, so I guess I'll take it. By clicking on this orb, we also attune to Blackwing Lair, so we're ready to take that on at some point. A couple of our members leave as we decide to blitz through Lower Blackrock Spire for some easy reels. From the run, we get some nice boots from Warmaster Voon and this quest item from the last boss, which we can later turn in for a quick quest to go back to Upper Blackrock Spire, defeat Dracasath again, and get a decent trinket, though I'm not sure if we'll use it over our current ones if I'm honest. After all that, we team up with this hunter to finish up the first part of the Onyxia attunement quest, so we can be ready to finish at a later date. Some days later, I wanted to show off this very odd Scholomance run. Look at our tank's gear. Healer is in for a rough time, and yeah, as you can imagine, very often the tank pulls a pack and just falls over. If they do manage to live, they can't really hold threat. This isn't working, so the other warlock offers to tank instead, and from there it goes reasonably smoother, though they also still struggle with threat. From the run, we do get a pair of shoulders, which I believe are a very slight upgrade, so we'll take that. Not really what we're after, as I'm still using some very outdated gear, but progress is progress. Speaking of progress, a few days later, I learn of these invasion farms. Massive ziggurats floating in the sky are sending down forces of undead and cultists across Azeroth. In the eastern Plaguelands, you can form large groups to take down these waves of enemies, which grant a huge amount of reputation with the Argent Dawn, something needed for Naxxramas and Scarlet Enclave activities. You also obtain these necrotic runes, which can be turned in for a pair of gloves, which we'll talk about in a moment, and these dark hearts, which can be turned in for large amounts of this currency called Remnants of Valor. Remnants of Valor are used to amplify the effects of sanctified gear. This gear is very useful in Naxxramas, as it provides a very large buff while inside the raid, increasing damage, healing, or health depending on your role. So, getting reputation high and remnants just over 3000 is quite important in our steps to go into Naxxramas. Though after a while of farming, I decided to take a break and try another Molten Core. In this run, I'm not kidding, we don't get a single piece. Some do drop, that would be great for us, but we don't get a single piece. And our rolls are so bad. At least we get to see the Ragnaros fight. That's cool. Now, this is extremely unfortunate, but I lost about 3 hours of footage because the video file got corrupted. It's my fault. I didn't turn off OBS before turning off my computer. So instead, I hope you enjoy this short segment of what I accomplished in that time. I joined my first ever Zul'Farrak run, and in this instance, they were going from Hakar. They were doing all the bosses that drop these idols, and an additional one. These idols are used for strong enchants, so ZG is run a lot, even by very geared players. From the run, I receive an idol for a future enchant, which somebody does try to buy off me, but I decline. A nice upgrade to my boots, and a huge upgrade to my robe, finally replacing the level 40 Gnomeregan one. I also use 150 tarnished undermined reels to purchase the Scythe of Depleted Chaos, a soon-to-be very powerful warlock weapon, but we need to do some things first. We talk to this warlock in the Barrens, and he sends us to collect various demon souls in the eastern Plaguelands, each having a different challenge associated with them. Once obtaining those, we are tasked to go into Demonfall Canyon and solo this elite demon. Upon completing that, we are awarded with the Scythe of Chaos, a massive upgrade over our Blackfathom Depths dagger. This is a very cool quest line, and I hate that I can't properly showcase it, but I guess you could look at it as me encouraging you to try it for yourself. Coming back to the footage I do have though, I did start my attunement to Karazhan Crypts, with the most lengthy part of the quest chain being this. We had to collect 3 different items to construct a magical torch to ward off evil within the crypts. A flame from Dragonkin by Gribatal, a branch from this ancient in Demonfall Canyon, which by the way we get a massive upgrade from doing the dungeon, and finally a wisp from the very end of Dark Whisper Gorge in Winterspring. Using this enchanted torch, we banish the darkness surrounding the crypt, allowing us at least somewhat safe passage into the crypt. After a short break, I find myself in a Karazhan Crypts group, and before we begin, I have to say, this may be one of the best dungeons Blizzard has made in years. Throughout the dungeon you have to follow the tank who is holding the enchanted torch. You take damage and can't see otherwise. All the rooms look amazing and the glowing effects in the dark, giving off this creepy and mystical vibe, are awesome. The first boss we encounter in here is Kagi, who's often sought after by melee for the neck he can drop, but he actually drops us this really good wand, which I'm told is best in slot for warlocks, so yay me. After that is this neat little opera event, which tells a tale of 3 little pigs, but in reverse. This boss drops for us this really good offhand, which is actually the second piece of a 2-set with the wand we just got. That's pretty dang lucky. Might have to spec into Affliction if I get a good main hand. We venture through the pool of upside down sinners and come across the Harbinger of Sin, a massive skeletal construct. It drops big meteors you have to dodge and does a massive pull-in and then a huge AoE you have to run from. The loot is all reliable, a big old shovel. Neat. Delving deeper, we find this massive spider, Creeper Malison, who spawns a bunch of ads, but I think you can use the torch to burn them away. I'm not 100%. It drops the Clobber Club. Even the loot in here is themed well. We then find this room with acolytes, and after clearing them, it spawns the next boss, Karazhan. He does a fear, forcing people out into the darkness and randomly roots somebody, so you have to find them before they succumb to the evils that are lurking out in the dark. He also casts a one-shot AoE you need to move out from. He drops 3 items, but nothing for us. But I won't complain, I already got 2 amazing pieces. We then venture back a bit and come across this demon, who you're meant to repeatedly stun and interrupt. They're not actually listed in the Atlas loot, and doesn't drop anything remarkable, so maybe a sort of mini-boss? But then we're on to the real final boss, the Dark Rider. Phantoms of charges periodically run through the room you need to dodge, and a line of them will spawn throughout the fight, and you need to use the torch to find a gap. Vanquishing the Dark Rider, it drops some leather braces, and I once again have to say, I think this might be one of the coolest dungeons WoW has. That day, I finish up by completing my grind to be kid enough for Naxxramas, obtaining my revered reputation so it's much cheaper to attune, collecting remnants to upgrade my seal which massively increases damage while wearing sanctified gear at Naxxramas, and buying some Scarlet gear to fill in gaps so I am equipped with 8 sanctified pieces. Turns out being a warlock does have its benefits when it comes to gold making. Blood Summons is ready and excited for Naxxramas and beyond. Coming back, we actually find ourselves into a Naxxramas run, which is a huge step up for getting our gear score up. We go ahead with what's called a Hard Mode 3 run, which I believe is the 3rd of the 4 difficulties for Naxxramas, giving us better loot opportunities. Our first boss is a Khan. Ad's gotta get taken down and the tank needs to occasionally kite. The boss goes down easy as we have a few pretty geared players with us. Now you'll see these glowing borders around the items. That means that this is a soft reserve run. We get 2 each this time. Before the raid you can reserve specific items, and if they drop, the people who have soft reserved that item will have priority over those who don't. In this run I reserved the Desecrated Ring and Circle as they were some of my worst pieces at the time. Next is Grand Widow Fairlina, where we have to AoE down the ads and avoid some avoidable damage. From where I actually get some braces because the first boss did drop some, so these are free game. Next up is my Exner, who throws players onto the wall and ranged have to break them out of the webs, and occasionally stunning the whole raid, so the tank needs defensives and hots rolling. She drops the Wraithblade, which looks great, but we can't get it because it's reserved. The 2 glove drops aren't though, so they're up for rolls, but we don't win those unfortunately. Just before we start the next boss, Noth the Plague Bringer, somebody shares the quest Echoes of War, which I didn't realise until later, but I actually needed that before starting Naxxramas, because completing it is needed to turn in any tier tokens from Naxxramas. So I won't actually be able to turn in any of my gear until I do Naxxramas again the following week. I didn't even know it existed. I thought it'd just be like every other raid, but oh well, we'll be doing multiple runs of Naxxramas anyway. Actually onto Noth though. Mages and druids need to dispel to avoid big damage on the raid, which unfortunately many fail to do. But he still goes down first try, dropping nothing for us. After Noth we have to, as a raid, run through this mushroomy area with lots of mobs to the next boss room, avoiding certain paths as they have traps. So we run along this wall and into the next room with Hygen the Unclean. Range can stand on the platform while melee actually have to do the dance. As you can see, we also accidentally pull some mobs through, but we still get the boss down. Hygen dropping naught for Blood Summons. We move on to Lowerthep, who occasionally negates healing on the raid, and you can be next to these spores as they die to get a big damage increase. Though I never do it because I'm silly like that I guess. Boss goes down and drops 2 rings, which would be great for us, and they're not reserved, but we don't win them unfortunately. Next up is Instructor Vesuvius, who actually needs to be tanked by his trainees, with a priest mind controlling them traditionally. Apparently there's some sort of paladin strat, but I have no idea what that is. We mess it up though, with the boss taking down a tank very fast and being in line of sight of the raid, which means he is basically one-shotting half the raid with his disrupting shout. As we're rezzing to go again, somebody accidentally body pulls the boss and kills a large chunk of the raid again. Third time is the charm as we get everybody up with buffs going out again. We execute the boss properly this time and he drops some warlock tank rebs which we win for an off-spec, and some tier boots. Our next encounter is Gothic the Harvester, which is honestly a pretty boring fight. Waves of ads spawn on 2 different sides very slowly, which can be killed by basically 2 players, but actually getting to the boss, he goes down super easy but doesn't drop anything for Blood Summons. After Gothic is the 4 Horsemen. I'm not entirely sure how people tank this fight on Season of Discovery, but my job at least is to just not let my stacks get too high by moving between the bosses, though they go down fairly easily anyway. After taking down all 4 Horsemen, 2 tier chest pieces drop, though one is soft reserved and we don't win the other. Moving on to the next boss though, in the Construct Quarter, Patchwork is a tank and spank DPS race. but you've got to watch your threat as melee, I think. He doesn't drop anything I believe is an upgrade, however. Grobulus is after patchwork, and you need to drop debuffs away from the raid, while the tank kites the boss slowly. Grobulus drops some tier shoulders, however they're reserved so we can't get them. We move on to this pipe here to get ready for the next boss, Gluth. We run through the slimy tunnel as a raid as it damages you if you're in it, and the fight starts as soon as you drop down into the arena. The zombie chows need to be tanked and kited away from the boss, as if Gluth gets too close, it'll eat a zombie and regain a large amount of health. But when done properly, the boss is easy. Dropping some shoulders, which I don't think are an upgrade, but looking back, maybe they were, I'm not sure. Almost right after Gluth is Thaddeus. Range take on Starlag on the left, while melee fight Fugan on the right. Once both of these mini-bosses are defeated, we jump to Thaddeus, with a few people actually failing the jump. Thaddeus' mechanic is Polarity Shift, assigning each player a negative or positive charge. You need to stay stacked with your mark, otherwise you'll fall and likely take down a bunch of others with you. Other than that, the boss goes down and unfortunately drops no potential loot for us. But now we're on to the second last boss, Sapphiron the Great Frostworm. I'm not 100% on the mechanics here, I just knew to get out of blizzards and stand behind frozen people when the frost breath comes out. Doing that, we take down Sapphiron, who drops a lot of trinkets and enchants for those that reserved them, and we get some tier token gloves too. Moving on, we come across the final boss of the raid, the Arch Lich of Naxxramas, Lich Lord of the Plaguelands, Commander of the Dread Necropolis, Master and Founder of the... Yeah, we DC'd again. My ISP was really not having it this month. But hey, we're back before the fight is over. We skipped the boring part of the fight, of very slowly moving waves of ads. We're in time to be frost blasted, volleyed, and have Guardians of Icecrown spawn. But we take down Kel'Thuzad. He drops some desecrated rings, myself and a bunch of others reserved, but with a 93, we secure one for ourselves, as well as a necklace, which is a pretty big upgrade, clearly rewarding our hard work done during that last boss fight. We return to Blood Summons in a group for the Nightmare Dragons. There's still a few key pieces we could get from these bosses. From the bosses, we actually get an AQ tier bracer, though I feel bad after a while because I actually just totally forgot that I had the Naxxramas braces in my bag. A couple days later, we get into another Nax run, which means more loot, as well as being able to turn in our tier pieces afterwards. This is another soft reserve run. This time we reserve the ring, a tier robe, and a tier helm. As we just ran over the bosses in our next run, I'll rapid fire the bosses. Anubrakan has not for us, as is the same with Grand Widow and Maexta. We then take down Instructor Azuvius first try, dropping nothing for us though. Gothic drops a headpiece, not quite the one we're after, but definitely still better than our Blackrock Depths monocle. But unfortunately we don't win it, losing to this sub 760 gear score Gnome Mage with no trinkets. The four horsemen are a bit messy, but we get it done, winning our soft reserved tier robes. Coming into the Plague Quarter, we take down Noth the Plaguebringer, who drops our soft reserved ring, but we've got to compete with the undergeared Gnome Mage to get it. With a 74 roll, we win the ring over the Mage's 26. Running through the mushroom halls, we start Hygen the Unclean, who doesn't drop anything for us. Onto Lower Theb, I decide this time to actually take a fungal spore buff, even though you can never see me on the damage meters. Regardless, we take the boss down, and there are some tier legs we could get, but we don't win the roll. This ring, however, is a healing ring, and guess who wins it? The Gnome Mage. Shortly after, they're actually booted from the raid because of it. I think it's because he rolled main spec as a Frost Mage, while there were actually a lot of healers in the raid who needed it. Less loot competition for us later, I guess. After too much time wiping on trash, we start patchwork, and look, you can actually see us in the meters sometimes. We take down the Abomination and he drops nothing for us, unfortunately. While clearing the trash before Grobulus, I get knocked unbelievably high in the air. Did not know that could happen. After a quick res, we get the boss down easy. Grobulus drops a dagger, which would be good for us to go with an offhand we have, though we don't get it this time. Heading into the next boss, Gluth. The ads are tanked scarily close to the boss, and as you can imagine, Gluth ends up eating some chow when we wipe. We take a long run back, regroup, rebuff, and head in again. Though once again, the ads are tanked a little close, and I think the main tank is getting feared too, which does not help. With the boss low, we wipe again due to the healing, and then people decide to quit. Apparently Pug can't handle doing a boss for a third time when there's only a few bosses left. Oh well, that ends our Naxxramas run. However, we still have loot to collect. Cashing in our tier tokens with the materials needed, we bump our gear score up to a massive 1047. Or even later use some fragments from the new Avalon weeklies and a Scarlet Enclave hood to combine into the tier helm from the Scarlet Enclave raid, bumping us up to a nearly 1.1k gear score. Feeling really good at this point, and I'm feeling pretty prepared to venture into the Scarlet Enclave. Now, to be honest, it actually took me weeks and weeks and weeks to find a Scarlet Enclave run. My playtimes just weren't really suited for a lot of runs, and even if I could find one, I'd always want someone with more experience or more gear. But after ages of searching, we finally came across a guild run who just needed a few spots filled with the guild bread vendors. These guys were super chill and nice to play with, and the raid leader seemed like a cool guy. After a very long amount of time summoning, as is our job, we start the raid with the first boss, Balnazar. There are stack points the range can stand in to avoid damage, as well as hit the boss while he's flying in the air. Otherwise, we take down the boss actually first try. Now for this run, we're doing all the loot at the end, and we've reserved just one piece of loot, being a belt. This is because some of us are a bit less experienced and lower gear score, but I think that's fair. The next boss, High Commander Beatrix, is a pretty ad-heavy fight, with waves of ads to cleave down and even lines and swirlies to dodge. Though with our Shadowbolt volley, we actually end up hitting a mob before it gets aggroed by a tank, and we die. Though the raid still gets the boss down. We travel down to the docks and take on Mason the Echo, who spawns oil patches, can light those patches on fire, and occasionally goes immune while two teams do something on the boats I don't actually remember. But once again, another boss down, first try. We fight through some more of New Avalon and begin Solistraza, a great proto-drake. Range stack and move as a unit to minimize fire in the room, and melee have to take these circles to the walls for the same reason. Once you take the boss down to 0 health, she actually changes color, heals to full, and spawns some whelplings that you've got to take down. After a few times getting the boss to 0%, we actually do it and defeat her. Moving on to Alexi the Beastmaster, this is actually a very easy fight for us as ranged, as we can just stand on this roof while the bosses are being tanked on either side of this little fence. One of the bosses does some sort of shockwave that you're meant to dodge, but as ranged on the roof, you don't even have to worry about it. Alexi falls as we quickly tank down another boss. This is a really smooth run so far, quite enjoying it. We then venture into the Great Chapel, clearing corridors of ads and then coming on to the council fight featuring Herod, Vicious and Doan. From what I remember, Vicious needs to be kicked, Herod needs to be tanked away, and Doan has to go down first as he teleports around the room and does a lot of damage. During the fight, we actually die because Herod comes around to just smacks us. We definitely didn't have aggro, so I don't know what that was about. A little later, the room fills with lava and fire tornadoes swirl around the room. The raid, being the game as they are, take down the bosses. After them is Lillian Voss, which is a boss with a lot of move out mechanics. If you get any circles on you, just move out. And sometimes you have to keep moving for a debuff. Easy boss. And now we're here. Our first time ever in Scarlet Enclave, we've actually gotten to the final boss, Grand Crusader Karazhan. In the first phase, most of the raid stands directly behind the boss, while a couple tanks stand to the side tanking ads. He occasionally casts a blind you need to look away from. If you get a fire circle, you need to drop it by the pillars. However, somebody messes this up and we have to try and make some weird maneuvers to better tank the boss. On reaching 50%, the boss becomes immune and now we have to take down the Ashbringer itself. While it does heavy damage to the raid, but because of the misplaced fire, we have to wipe as our melee can't hit the boss and it's just too messy. Next try though, we do it much cleaner, though I fall during the Ashbringer phase just due to raw damage. He starts to cast Dying Light as the raid runs to this safe zone at the front of the room. The boss teleports away while the raid follows him. We're now outside with the chapel surrounded by fire, with ash and smoke in the sky. Unfortunately, we can't get the best angles with the floor POV, but the raid seems to be handling it. The boss's health goes down slowly as he spawns Edge, which needs to be cleaved down, as well with the blind mechanic from the first phase. As Karazhan hits 10%, the Ashbringer comes back and you have a flat 60 seconds to get it to 0%, or the raid wipes. It's scary as we have some DPS down and some mechanics like a flamethrower are still happening. The cast gets close to finishing and with 5 seconds left, the raid takes down the Ashbringer. The boss, now with a broken blade and low health, falls to the raid. Sucks to be dead on the kill, but it was really cool to see it regardless. There's a lot of loot to roll on, most of it reserved or unusable, but we do get some tier token legs as well as these pages for a potential offhand. But yeah, we did it. Maybe a little anticlimactic with the floor POV, but we took down the Scarlet Enclave raid. We did it. The run was very fun. I enjoyed the raid and the guild we ran with. From levels 1 through 60, we've had many adventures. Our ups and downs, met a lot of people. Some good, some no majors, and we return to Northshire Valley, where it all began. Season of Discovery has been really fun, and I'm very happy I was able to get into it before the population fell off too hard from the announcement of no more updates from Blizzard. If I'd known what would be in store, I definitely would have stuck with it more when it first came out. I want to thank everyone who's been along for the journey, those I've played with, my live viewers, video viewers, subscribers. You've all been amazing and shown me support I never thought I'd receive. This series has really lightened up my spark for creation again, and I want to continue making more videos like this. If you've liked what you see, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe. It helps more than you know and it motivates me even further. I do have things planned for the future in WoW content creation, so be sure to stick around. Thank you everyone, you're all amazing.